Welcome, everyone. I'm Julie Bjelland. I'm recording this episode for the HSP Podcast live in my sensitive empowerment community, where many of us identify as HSP empaths. And we're so thrilled to be together and to welcome Dr. Judith Orloff today for the healing power of being an empath. Judith Orloff is the New York Times bestselling author of the Empath Survival Guide, a psychiatrist on the UCLA Psychiatric Clinical Faculty, and a founder of the Empath movement. She synthesizes the pearls of traditional medicine with cutting-edge knowledge of intuition, energy, and spirituality. Welcome, Dr. Orloff. We're so happy to have you here today. I think you have the most beautiful heart. I think our missions are very similar, and I'm really excited to welcome you.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm honored to speak to your community of HSPs and empaths and sensitive, loving, caring people.
Yes, and you are definitely one of those. I've come across your work several times. You are one of the first people to introduce me to the idea of being an empath. And as a psychotherapist, I really was in this lane of, I need to stay in sort of this lane, the scientifically proven trait of high sensitivity. I want to make sure that the medical community takes it seriously and the psychology community takes it seriously. And the more I learned about my trait and was able to balance myself better in the world, I started to explore the empath side of me. And I find it really fascinating, and I'm really excited to be able to talk with you today about really what it is even that it means to be an empath. So maybe we even start there with some people that are new to learning about it. So as a conventionally trained physician, you are also an empath. What is an empath, and what is the neuroscience findings that explain the empath experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I'm a psychiatrist. I'm in private practice. I see patients. I'm also on the clinical faculty at UCLA and occasionally supervise psychiatric residents. And I'm also an empath. And so I combine my traditional psychiatric skills, which I so love and so honor, with the ability to use my intuition and sense and know and read people's energy and get nonlinear information from my patients that I can integrate with what I also get from my linear mind. So as a therapist, I combine both, which is a big message that I have. And I have workshops for training healthcare professionals to integrate their beautiful linear training with being an empath. An empath is somebody who doesn't have the same kind of filters that other people have. We're like super responders and super sensitive, and we don't have the same kind of defenses up or the ability to dissociate like other people have. So we're more wide open to the world. And overall, I think that's a really fantastic thing. I mean, I wouldn't give it up for anything. I love being an empath. I love sensing and knowing and feeling and connecting with people, with nature, with life. I love connection and the depth of connection, and being an empath can give you. However, empaths are also emotional sponges. And so we tend to absorb information and energy from other people. And if you don't have the proper tools that I've written about, you can get exhausted, go on sensory overload, not know how to set boundaries, and just feel overwhelmed and sick from the gift, which is not how you want to feel, and it's not necessary to feel that way. But we must learn certain skills, and I practice them every day. I wrote a book called Thriving as an Empath. Every single day of the year, a different self-care tool, which I read, which I use all the time because it has to work. These techniques have to work so I can enjoy myself and I can honor my empath needs at the same time as being of service without burning out. So it just takes some self-care skills and some meditation exercises and practices in order to find your center over and over again and know what to do if you start absorbing other people's stuff.
I love that you just said that, because we were just talking before we started recording about that every HSP empath that I know that is doing well and thriving has a daily practice. It's not something we can skip. And I used to be somebody that was so overwhelmed with life and sick all the time, just like you were saying. And I really thought, like, I can't do the things I want to do because I'm so overwhelmed, until I really started the daily practice, like you're talking about, the daily mindfulness, time in nature every day, time alone every day. All these things have self-compassion, because we can be really hard on ourselves naturally, which is surprising that we're so compassionate with others. So I love, what you are representing in the world, I think is so incredibly powerful that you share. I've heard you, we've been on some summits together at the Shift Network, and I've heard you talk about things from your personal background and your perspective. And I just think that it's so powerful that you share your real stories, and how I was hearing you talk about once about, like, even the distance that we're doing right now, in lines and stuff is kind of nice as an empath, that we don't have to be right next to each other all the time. And I love that about you.
This is a dream come true. I always want people to keep away from me, in public places. That's my dream come true, that they stay away. And they still don't stay away. They do all kinds of things to not keep the distance. But I love it, because I have more of a free space around me, free sky, free air, free energy, just to be me as I go through, let's say, the market, go and shop. I don't want someone else's energy imposing on mine. So I love the social distancing. But I also love not having it with friends. The hugging is what I've missed in the pandemic, and the loving, and you get that from animals, you get that from your little bubble of people, but just the wonderful hugs that you get from loving people. Those are the good kinds of touch. It's so nurturing to have love. So that's been a downside of the pandemic for me as an empath, but the upside has been having the space. I always want people to stay away from me, a lot of the time.
I love how you talk about this. Are there actually neuroscience findings about being an empath?
Yeah, in the Empath Survival Guide, there's a whole section on the science of being an empath.
Wonderful.
And what's fascinating is the mirror neuron systems, which are the neuronal system in the brain and the body responsible for compassion. And it's been shown that with really empathic, loving people, empaths, they tend to have hyperactive mirror neuron systems, meaning they're working too hard all the time to be compassionate, as opposed to, let's say, a narcissist or a sociopath or a psychopath who have empathy deficient disorder and their mirror neuron systems are underperforming. So I find that very fascinating that our neurology reflects our compassion, or actually imbues us with compassion. Yes. And the other interesting point is with dopamine, the pleasure hormone. It's been found that sensitive people and quiet introverted people need less dopamine to get the kind of blissful feeling that you get from the pleasure hormone. And people who are not HSPs and empaths, they need to get a bigger boost. They need to go to the Rolling Stones concert or the football game or some kind of big boost of dopamine to feel the surge. But we introverts or even extroverted empaths, we don't need as much dopamine because we feel satisfied reading a book. We feel satisfied watching the ocean. We feel satisfied walking in the forest. We don't need a big, loud band to start feeling good.
Oh, yeah. Those internal reflection places, like where you're looking at a sunset or into the face of your beloved pet or something. It's like such a beautiful experience. I know for myself, I'm just at that top highest level. I experience all of that so much, and I've learned how to sort of fill up that positivity tank inside of me more so through that. And it's really been life-changing to do that too. What are the different types of empaths? And some of the gifts.
Yeah. They're great. There are many different types. There's overall the introverted and the extroverted empath and the ambivert. The ambivert is a mixture of introversion and extroversion. The extroverted empath likes to go out and socialize, but also does need to decompress. They're not like the regular extrovert. They need to decompress. They need to have their quiet time. And then there's the introverted empath like me. I'm really, really introverted. And I'm a writer. I like to stay in a room for years on end writing and being quiet and walking by the ocean and being with one or two people versus large amounts of people. So, I'm an introverted empath, and many empaths are. And then the types of empaths, there's emotional empath, somebody who tends to have a knack of picking other people's emotions up. You can just sense if someone's angry or depressed or not okay, and you just sense it really quickly, and you might absorb it into your body and start feeling it too. There's the intuitive empath. This is an empath that's very astutely attuned to their intuition, and there are different types. There could be a plant empath where you really vibe with plants and you can communicate with the plant world, or animal empaths vibe with the animal world and can communicate and talk and love and be, and it's like a family member because you're so connected. The animal empath. And I think there's an ocean empath. I'm certainly an ocean empath. The ocean is one of my main companions my whole life, and I see it as a companion. I don't see it as just a body of water out there. I see it as a live, organic organism system that's loving me and I'm connecting with. So you might be an ocean empath, you might be an earth empath, somebody who can feel the changes of the earth. So there are many different kinds of empaths, and you need to kind of tune into what you are, what is your baseline, and then how would you like to expand? Because even if you aren't, let's say, a plant empath, but you want to explore, you could spend time with plants. You can begin to meditate with plants. Plants communicate with each other. Nature communicates with each other. It's not like they're just inert. So there's life everywhere. Empaths can feel that. And that's so mind-blowing that we could feel that. Other people might not be able to feel it. And if you share it with the wrong people, they might say, "What's wrong with you? What are you talking about?" But that's just how it is. That the non-empaths sometimes can't feel it, what you can feel. Just so you know that, like, my partner can't feel this. My partner doesn't absorb energy and emotions like I do. And I love that. I love the grounding for me. I don't, someone else doing what I do. I'm so fluid and connecting all the time. Too much.
Yeah, we sound so similar. I mean, everything that you've been saying, I've been nodding my head in agreement. I feel like we have the same experience. And it's so powerful for people to hear you say that it's like other people might not feel everything that you're feeling. And that's okay. And it doesn't mean that what you're feeling is wrong or anything like that. In fact, the world needs you to feel these things. And I
warn everybody, as something I've been told all my life, and it just drives me crazy, is that they say, "You're the only one who feels that way." I go, that's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. If I have one patient who has one side effect from something and they're feeling it, they're feeling it. There's no discussion. I don't care if no one else has felt it. I'm feeling it. And so, to go into a doctor and the medical profession, they're saying, "You're the only one who's ever felt that way. It doesn't exist." No, it does exist. So it's just something that comes up with empaths because we feel things and we respond to things at such lower doses. Many medications, like, we require less of everything in many cases. I'm not going to get into the medication discussion, but just remember that. You might need a little bit less, so you might want to experiment with a little bit less to see if it's effective.